When we think of ancient law, we often picture this long list of dusty, forgotten rules. But what we're looking at today in Deuteronomy 24 is something else entirely. It's not just a rule book, it's a radical blueprint for a society built from the ground up on empathy. So let's dive in and see how it works.
So this is the big question, right? Not just what are the rules, but what's the engine driving them? What if the whole legal system was powered by a shared memory of suffering? As we're about to see, this text suggests that the most powerful motivation for justice is remembering what it feels like to be a victim of injustice.
So, where do you start building a compassionate society? Not in some big, fancy courthouse, but in the most personal space there is the home. The logic here is actually pretty simple. If you want a just nation, you have to start by building just families.
Now, at first glance, this rule about a man not remarrying his ex-wife after she's been with someone else, it can seem a little strange to our modern ears. But for its time, it was a massive step forward. It was all about protecting a woman's dignity and her standing in the community, making it clear she wasn't some piece of property to be passed back and forth.
And get this one really shows you where the priorities were. The foundation of a new family was considered so important, so essential, that it was literally more important than national defense. A new husband got a whole year off from military duty. And the text is really specific about why. His job is to bring happiness to the wife he has married. It's incredible. Okay, so we've seen how the blueprint works inside the house. Now let's step outside, into the public square, the world of business and economics. How does this demand for compassion shape how people buy, sell, and work? All right, before we go any further, we got to get one key term down: pledge. It's really simple. Think of it as collateral. If you needed a loan, you'd give the lender something valuable as a guarantee that you'd pay them back. This idea is absolutely central to the next few laws we're going to look at. So look at this. This isn't just about money, it's about dignity. A lender couldn't just barge into someone's house to grab their collateral. That's their private space, their sanctuary. You had to wait outside. And even more, you couldn't keep a poor man's cloak overnight. Why? Because that cloak was also his blankets. The law basically says a person's need for warmth and shelter is more important than securing a loan.
This one is just so practical, so profound. A pair of millstones, that's how you ground grain to make bread. That's how you fed your family. Taking them as collateral would be like taking a coder's laptop or a delivery driver's car today. It makes it impossible for them to earn the very money they need to pay you back. It's a law that protects a person's fundamental ability to work.
And wow, this one shows such a deep understanding of what it means to be poor, to live hand to mouth. For a day laborer, their wages weren't just income, they were dinner. They needed that day's pay for that night's food. The law demands same-day payment because, as the text says so powerfully, they are poor and are literally counting on it just to survive.
So we've covered the home and the marketplace, but what about the people who fall through the cracks? Well, the blueprint has a plan for them too. It creates this legal shield, a special set of protections for society's most vulnerable.
And notice who keeps getting mentioned over and over again. It's not the rich and powerful. The law specifically, repeatedly, names the foreigner, the fatherless, the widow, the poor. Why? Because these were the people who didn't have a traditional family or social safety net, so the law itself becomes their protector. Okay, this is a huge deal for the ancient world. This establishes the principle of individual justice. You are responsible for what you do. Period. No guilt by association. You don't punish a whole family for the crime of one person. It's a revolutionary idea that each person stands alone before the law. I just love this. It's a social welfare system that's literally built into the economy. It's not a handout, it's an opportunity. When you harvested your field, you were legally required to be a little bit inefficient. You had to leave the leftovers. This gleaning system meant the poor could go and work for their own food, which preserved their dignity and made sure nobody in the community starved. And here is a line in the sand that you just do not cross. Kidnapping someone and selling them into slavery, that wasn't just treated like theft. It was seen as a fundamental evil, something so toxic it had to be completely purged from the community. The punishment was death, because the crime was an assault on the absolute value of human freedom. So, we've seen all these incredible laws about dignity, fairness, and protection. But why? What is the one big idea that powers this entire system? Well, the text doesn't hide it.
Let's look at the source code of compassion. It's the ultimate question, isn't it? Why all these rules? Why this relentless focus on the poor and the weak? The text gives a crystal clear and profoundly moving answer.
There it is. That exact phrase shows up twice in this one chapter alone, so you know it's the main point. It's the core logic of the whole system. You must treat the worker, the foreigner, the poor, and the debtor with compassion because you know what it feels like. You were once powerless. You were once slaves. You know what it's like to be at the bottom.
So let's just let that sink in. Empathy isn't just a nice feeling here. It's a legal command rooted in national memory. The community's own past suffering is meant to be the fuel for their present compassion. The command is to basically institutionalize empathy, to take the memory of being powerless and use it to build a society that protects the powerless. And that, really, is the question this ancient text leaves for us today. If the key to building a just world is to remember injustice, then what are the memories, the stories of suffering, of struggle, and of liberation that our own society must refuse to forget so that we can build a more compassionate and just world for everyone?